Max Verstappen did not demand answers from Red Bull because he lost second place at Silverstone. He demanded answers because Red Bull had already been warned, and the same nightmare came back 1 week later. Austria was the alarm. Silverstone was the failure Red Bull was supposed to prevent. 2 races, 2 rear wing problems. Same terrifying outcome. Lap 48, Stowe corner. Verstappen chasing Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari. Full speed, full trust, no room for hesitation. Then the rear wing was not fully attaching. The downforce vanished. The car snapped. Max spun, and this is why the story exploded. Verstappen did not call it unlucky. He called it super dangerous. He said he was lucky in Austria and lucky again at Silverstone. That is not a normal complaint. That is a driver telling his own team, this car crossed a line. Because in Formula One, a broken strategy can cost points. A broken pit stop can cost a podium. But a broken rear wing in a high-speed corner can cost much more. Now Red Bull has to answer the question Max is really asking. Did they understand the first failure? Or did they send him back into danger before they truly knew what was wrong? Subscribe to the channel. To understand why Verstappen's demand for answers was so serious, you have to start with one simple truth. A Formula One driver does not attack a high-speed corner by hoping the car will work. He attacks because he already believes it will. That belief is built before the corner. It is built through every lap, every braking point, every steering input, every small message the car sends to the driver's hands. The driver feels the rear load up. He feels the tires bite. He feels the airflow press the car into the ground. And when all of that feels normal, he commits. At Silverstone, Verstappen committed. He was chasing Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari for second place. The race was deep into its final phase. Lap 48, Stowe corner. One of those places where hesitation does not just cost lap time, it changes the entire corner. This is not a slow turn where the driver can wait, correct, and recover. Stowe is a commitment corner. By the time the car is turning in, the driver has already made the decision. He has already trusted the rear. He has already trusted the wing. He has already trusted Red Bull. And then the car failed him. The rear wing was not fully attaching. That means the rear of the car was not getting the downforce Verstappen expected. In plain words, the invisible force that helps push the car into the track was suddenly not there in the way it needed to be. And that changes everything. Because a Formula One car is not only fast because of its engine, it is fast because the air around it is being used like a weapon. The wings shape that air. The floor shapes that air. The whole car is designed to make the tires grip harder than they ever could on their own. So when the rear wing does not do its job at high speed, the driver does not just lose a little performance. He loses the rear. And when the rear goes at a corner like Stowe, the car can snap before the driver has a fair chance to save it. That is why Verstappen's reaction was not just anger over a lost result. It was a demand for accountability. Because from his point of view, the car did not simply become difficult. It became unpredictable. And unpredictable is the word every racing driver hates. A difficult car can be managed. A car with poor balance can be adjusted. A car with worn tires can be driven around. But an unpredictable car is different. It changes the rules after the driver has already made the move. Imagine running across a bridge and trusting every plank beneath your feet. You are not checking each one. You are moving because the bridge is supposed to hold. Then one plank drops away without warning. You do not fall because you forgot how to run. You fall because the thing beneath you failed. That is what Silverstone felt like for Verstappen. The car asked for trust, then removed the support. And this is where Red Bull's problem becomes much bigger than one spin. Because Max Verstappen is not a driver who needs a gentle car. He has never built his reputation on comfort. He can drive cars that are sharp, nervous, and demanding. He can take a machine that feels on edge and still find speed where others find fear. That is part of his greatness. So when he says something is super dangerous, it lands differently. He is not complaining because the car moved around. He is not asking for an easy Sunday drive. He is saying the risk crossed a line. That line matters because Formula One drivers accept danger every time they get in the cockpit. They accept wheel-to-wheel battles. They accept wet tracks. They accept tire wear. They accept pressure from rivals. They accept the reality that mistakes can happen at impossible speed. But there's a difference between racing danger and avoidable danger. Racing danger comes from competition. Avoidable danger comes from a known problem reaching the driver again. And that is why Austria is a shadow over everything. 1 week before Silverstone, Red Bull had already seen the warning. Verstappen's active rear wing failed during qualifying the Austrian Grand Prix and wrecked his session. That should have forced the team into its highest level of urgency. Not because qualifying was ruined, because the failure involved a system the driver must trust completely. The rear wing is not a decorative part at the back of the car. It helps keep the rear tires pressed into the track. It helps the car stay stable when the driver turns in at speed. It helps Verstappen do the kind of things that make a Formula One car look almost impossible. When that system fails once, the team investigates. When it fails again the very next race, the driver starts demanding answers. And that demand is not emotional. It is logical. Because the question after Austria should have been, how do we make sure this outcome cannot happen again? But after Silverstone, the question became much harsher. Why was the same outcome still possible? That is a sentence Red Bull cannot escape. Why was the same outcome still possible? The team could explain that the exact fault was different, and that may be true. Verstappen himself described it as a different fault, but the same outcome. For engineers, that detail matters. For the driver, it is not enough. Because Max does not feel the difference between two internal causes when the car snaps. He feels the rear wing not doing what he expected. He feels the downforce vanish. He feels the rear stepping away. He feels the spin. And when the result inside the cockpit is the same, the explanation outside the cockpit has to be strong enough to rebuild trust. That is the challenge Red Bull now faces. They do not just need to say what broke. They need to prove they understand why two separate faults could lead to the same dangerous moment. That is the kind of problem that makes drivers uneasy, because it suggests the risk may not be isolated to one tiny part. It may be connected to the wider design, the way the mechanism behaves, or how the system responds under real racing loads. And real racing loads are brutal. Heat, vibration, air pressure, curbs, speed, cornering force. The driver asking everything from the car while rivals are close and the race is slipping away. A design that works in theory still has to survive that world. At Silverstone, the system did not survive it, and Red Bull knew the reaction had to be serious. Laurent Mekies did not try to dismiss Verstappen's anger. He did not say Max was being dramatic. He accepted that Max was right not to be happy. He admitted it was very unpleasant for drivers to be let down by the car in high-speed corners in 2 consecutive races. That matters, because when the team principal says that publicly, he is confirming the scale of the failure. This was not a normal reliability complaint. This was a driver being let down in the kind of corner where being let down can carry consequences far beyond the scoreboard. And Mekies went even further. He acknowledged that Red Bull had failed to stop it happening again. That is the admission that makes Verstappen's demand unavoidable. Because if the team admits it failed to prevent the repeat, then Max's question becomes the central question of the whole story. What changes now? Not what explanation sounds best. Not what statement calms the media. What changes now? What is different after Silverstone that was not different after Austria? What proof exists that the next high-speed corner will not become the third warning? That is why this moment is so dangerous for Red Bull. The team can repair a component. It can redesign a mechanism. It can change a process. But repairing the driver's belief is harder, because belief is not built from words. It is built from feeling. Max has to feel the rear stay planted. He has to feel the wing doing its job. He has to feel the car load up through the corner and respond the way his instincts expect. He has to feel that Austria and Silverstone are gone, not just explained. Until that happens, the doubt remains. And doubt does not need to be loud to damage performance. It only needs to appear for a fraction of a second. A tiny hesitation before turn-in. A slightly safer margin where the driver used to attack. A small question at the exact moment, when full commitment used to be automatic. Will it hold? That question is poisonous in a Formula One car, because Verstappen's advantage is built on commitment. He does not win by waiting for the car to reassure him. He wins by trusting earlier, pushing deeper, and making the limit arrive later than it does for everyone else. But if the car has already betrayed that trust twice, then Red Bull has taken away part of what makes Verstappen so dangerous. Not his talent, not his courage, his certainty. And certainty is performance. That is why Block 1 of this story is not just about understanding the wing failure. It is about understanding why Verstappen demanded answers so forcefully. He was not asking Red Bull to explain why a part broke. He was asking them to explain why he was placed in the same dangerous outcome after the first warning should have protected him. That is a very different question, and it puts Red Bull under a much harsher spotlight. Because in Formula One, every team wants performance. Every team pushes design to the edge. Every team takes risks to find speed. But once that risk reaches a driver in a high-speed corner, the team must prove it is still in control. At Silverstone, control was exactly what disappeared. For a few seconds, the car stopped being a weapon and became a question. And Verstappen's demand for answers was really a demand for Red Bull to turn that question back into certainty. But once Verstappen demanded answers, the story moved into a more dangerous place for Red Bull, because the problem was no longer hidden inside the car. It was out in the open. The driver had spoken. The team principal had admitted Max was right to be unhappy. And suddenly, Red Bull was not just dealing with a failed rear wing. They were dealing with the public image of a team that had failed to protect its own driver from the same dangerous outcome twice. That is a different kind of pressure. A Formula One team can explain a broken part. It can explain a missed setup. It can explain a strategy mistake, even when fans disagree. But when the driver says a failure was super dangerous and the team admits the situation was unacceptable, the explanation has to become much deeper. Because now everyone is asking the same question. What did Red Bull really know after Austria? That is where the conflict begins to sharpen. Austria was not a small clue. It was not a hidden data point only the engineers could understand. It was a clear failure of the active rear wing during the final part of qualifying, and it destroyed Verstappen's session. That should have made the system one of the most watched parts of the entire car. Every movement, every load, every possible weakness, every situation where the wing might not behave exactly as expected. Because in Formula One, the most dangerous failures are not always the ones that happen once. They are the ones that seem fixed, then return in a slightly different form.